And we are live. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Hey, girl.
Hey, Black people, what's going on?
How's your week going so far?
My week is going. It's not too bad. Tired as always, but what else is new? It's been a pretty decent week.
Um, it has been an interesting week for me. I remember BGS talking about automation, and I think the Black Brain Trust also talks about automation.
Mhm.
And I am literally being hit with automation. So I'm having to do something different for a new job and stuff, and I don't want it. And so, negotiations and meetings, honey, blah, blah, blah.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm changing headphones because I'm having issues hearing.
Okay. How's everybody doing? What Hey, Sam, I am. I got my eyes on you, boy.
Yeah, that- I can hear
Okay, we in the remix phase. That's what's up.
you fine. You know we. I'm. You know y'all might as well expect me to come through with the technical difficulties every show. Just y'all should be used to it by now.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
accept it for what it is.
Okay. 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 Well, it is what it is, honey. It is
Hmm.
what it is.
We gonna
But
work through it.
honey, if that's what it is, that's what it is, honey. Like it. But it's been the same old for the week. I am tired as all hell. I wanted to take off today so bad, but I got stuff to do. And
Hmm.
that's about it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm dealing with the same thing. I'm like, oh, I want to take off of work, but I have so much work to do. The end of the month is always really heavy for me. So I'm like, there's no way that I can take off, but I want to take off so bad.
girl, trust me, I know. So, let's get into the topic. Have Black men enabled the same women that they complain about?
Mm.
And the most complaints that I hear from a lot of Black men are a lot of women are hoes, they're disrespectful, they're disloyal, they won't listen. And I'm trying to understand how a whole culture got like this. Like it's an entire culture that they complain about. So, how
Mhm.
did an entire culture get like this? Um, where it's a the majority of women have the same mindset, and I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, the women are with the men.
Mhm.
I felt like the men had to take a lot of this shit or participate in a lot of the shit for it to get to um the point that it's at now. I feel like a lot of men don't want um don't want any responsibility to what happened to the culture. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, did the men tolerate a lot of shit to a point to where they would say, you know what, yeah, I'm out. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Or they didn't
Yeah, it's a
feel
fair
out.
question. I think it's a fair question. I mean, how did we end up here? Were there behaviors that were permitted that led us to this point? Is part of the reason that we're here due to the inaction of brothers. I think it's a fair question, and it's something worth diving into, and trying to talk through it as we generally do. So, I certainly understand the question, and it does make you stop and ponder.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, were the men being disrespected and the disrespect passed down from generation to generation? Were women being like, if a woman was being disrespectful and it wasn't checked at a certain point,
Hmm.
then why wasn't these types of things checked at a certain point? What was
Yeah.
like what happened to where
Hmm.
all of this stuff went unchecked?
Yeah.
And so a lot
And
of
I
men,
have some assumptions.
what are your assumptions,
Um,
honey?
I think that as it relates to your question, um, I kind of feel like black men either felt or, in some respects they were and powerless because the black woman has the ability to weaponize the government. And, black men aren't any match for the United States government. So I think that that is kind of part of the reason, but I cannot acknowledge that that's part of the reason without acknowledging that that has also played a huge part in, the indoctrination when the shift in the familial structure of the black community as well. So if I'm acknowledging that black men are in some ways powerless to against the government, I also have to acknowledge the role that the government has played in the attitudes and the you know nature of black women in today's society.
Yeah. So my question has always been to the men, how was it to a point to where some like the government was even allowed to infiltrate our family structure?
Mm.
And I'm not going to say that I've necessarily gotten a clear answer to that, but then at the same time, I'm a woman, so I don't listen too good. So they could be right there.
Well, to me, I mean, I can like I surmise as to how that happened. I mean, to just think about from our arrival in this country and everything that has happened thereafter. The um, lack of power that black men have in this country is not by, I mean, it's by design. I think that when you think about, like, there has never been a time in this country where black men were in positions of power. Of course, throughout the diaspora, there has, because we think about the continent and Africa and things of that. And think about the US, there was never a time in this country where black men were in positions of power. So to me, I'm having this discussion strictly from a ADOS or westernized black person's standpoint, because to me, I don't think that the my responses would be the same if I were just considering black men globally, because yeah, I mean, I don't want to kind of delve too deep off into it, but when you think about like black men in Africa or black men on the continent, it's different for them because they're um, they are the majority. In addition, they had white men to come onto the continent and take over and infiltrate and things of that nature. Whereas we are a minority in this country, and we have a very unique set of circumstances in this country where the black man has never been in a position of power. So I don't think that it's something that happened all of a sudden. The black man in this country never had power. The one place that he did have authority and rule was at one point in time in his home. And that was during the time when we had to stick together, when we were united because we had one common enemy. When that dynamic changed and the black woman felt as though the government or the white man had something to offer her by way of financial support, putting her in positions of power where she played the guard dog. When you think about, like, government positions, welfare, whatever it might be, positions where she could kind of guard his resources, and she did so proudly. I think that's when we saw the shift, because there was no longer that respect even inside of the black household, the black homes.
Yeah, you bring about a very good point. Um, So, I thought about the welfare system, and, we hear a lot of men talk about the women traded them for monies and materials and stuff. Do you believe that?
I think that Black women felt as though, now the thing, okay, so this is how I look at it. I don't think that Black women realized what was happening at the time that it was happening. I think that they felt, oh, I could play the system. I could go ahead and get these resources in addition to, having my man at home, because there were job markets that the Black man was locked out of. The Black man was still in a position to where, the white man is in power. So he had, almost complete control over, in many instances, whether or not you were able to feed your family. So I think that Black women went at it from the perspective of, I'm going to be able to feed my family and I'm going to play the system. But I think that ultimately what happened is she lost respect for her man. She felt like, okay, this is my house. The government is paying this rent for me and my kids to be here. We don't need you. And that's when the shift started to happen.
So, do you think that Black men tolerated a lot of disrespect, a lot of disloyalty? You know, everybody engages in whole culture, and
Mhm.
so, and I would say men from all over the world engage in whole culture. So, with like with talking about whole culture, I feel like everybody participated in that. And so I feel like that's a form of enabling something that they wouldn't want long term.
And that is a very, very good point. When you bring that up, because initially I was going to say, oh, I don't know if they necessarily permitted it, or but when you look at it from that viewpoint, basically, whereas they the men are saying one thing, i.e., this isn't the type of woman that we want. We want wholesome women, we want respectable women. However, you're giving your resources and time and attention to something that doesn't display what you say you want. I can see how that can be, if nothing else, a very conflicting message, for like wholesome women that are trying to find a mate. And I mean, I have to be honest, when I think about, and like I said, we talk about nuanced situations. So I'm just talking about what I personally see. When I think about what I personally see, I do see women who seem to have um, um, a lack of morals, if you will, garnering a lot of attention, popularity, and even resources in some respects. And it does make you think. Like, I don't. I know men don't like to acknowledge the fact that there is a sector of Black women that aren't desired, or aren't preferred. I'll say that, aren't preferred.
Mhm.
When you think about like the women who are like wholesome and are trying to do the right thing, and they are lacking in attention, but they see women who are doing the opposite of what men claim they want get a lot of attention. That could be confusing. It could, it's kind of like a mixed message.
So I posted a picture, the thumbnail with Sierra and Russell Wilson, right? And so then I thought about men being stepfathers, and that's, in a sense, that's a form of enabling to me, even though I had a stepfather and I'm very appreciative of my stepfather. But
Hmm.
to me, it's also a form of enabling, especially if you didn't have kids. Now, if you didn't have kids and you got with a woman with children, to me that's a form of enabling, because
Hmm.
essentially, especially if she has never been married.
Hmm.
When you get with a woman with kids that's never been married and you don't have any kids of your own, to me, that's a
Yeah.
form of simping.
Yeah, and I can understand that. To be completely honest with you, though, sorry, I think I look at it from this perspective. I think that step fathers is has innately been a part of our culture in this country. When you think about the fact that white men were the ultimate deadbeats. They didn't take care of the children that they fathered by raping, slaves on the plantation.
There you
Those children were taken care of and accepted as, the husband or the partner of, the woman on the plantation. So they're like the stepfather thing is almost ingrained in the culture. But I do agree with your sentiment regarding how that is also enabling poor behavior.
go. Yeah, because when you have men that are willing to come in and take care of another man's seed and cultivate a household or
Hmm.
whatever, and build a household, that does not to say that a woman can't change, not to say
Right.
that, but
And they can absolutely, but I absolutely think that a woman can change. I also believe that people make mistakes. I think that um, people make mistakes. Okay, if you had a child out of wedlock, to me, I am. I more take that stance when I see like repeated those mistakes being repeated over and over. And I wouldn't even call them mistakes at that point. Those choices being repeated over and over and over. And it's like, there's a pattern here and it's an obvious pattern. And, you have one man who steps in and steps up and he's playing the role of a stepfather to your child. And, for whatever reason, things don't work out with him and you end up pregnant by him. And then another man comes, and it's just, it's a pattern of behavior. And it basically says that you make poor choices with your private parts.
right, mismanagement of the vagina, honey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So with the disrespect, my thing is, how much disrespect did a man have to take to get to a point of, like, you know what, we're leaving an entire culture?
Mm,
And
yeah, that's a good one.
my question would be, why didn't men go SYSBM a long time ago? If this
Well,
was,
that's a good one. I want to say something really quick. The example that I just gave when I said, I think that a person can, make a mistake and or not even make a mistake because you made a conscious choice to do whatever you did. But I think that for me, I'll give you, I'll give you one. Okay, you made a poor choice consciously. I'll give you that. And when I said that, I was thinking about someone like a Sierra. She made a poor choice. She knew future situation. She laid down with him. She, got pregnant by him. Granted, they were, quote unquote, engaged, but he had a pattern of behavior that he had displayed, and she was very well aware of, his past. So, but she still made a conscious decision to do what she did. And when I say I'll give you one, I wanted to clear that up because actually it's not a mistake. For most women, you made a conscious choice and it was a poor one. I'll give you that one poor choice that resulted in perhaps a child or whatever bad situation it resulted in. But like I said, it's the pattern of behavior. But back to what you just said, that is a very good question. Like, how much poor behavior, how much berating and belittling and disrespect does it take to lead to where we are today? And clearly it's a lot because the black man has put up with a lot, and
right,
after hundreds of years he's like, okay, I'm tired of it. And I can't say that I blame him. Now, the whole SYSBM thing, I am not a proponent of that. Now, when you say, I would pose the question, why haven't men set a higher standard and or sought their own happiness a long time ago? But as far as leaving the community, I'm just, that's, um, I'm not a proponent of that per se, but I would ask the question, okay, why weren't you putting yourself first way before this? And I'm glad that they finally are. saying that, our happiness is number one, and that's important. I think that, that is vital. But I think that if we had our men doing that a long time ago, certain standards would have been set, and the women who were engaging in poor behavior and behavior that shows that they are of low moral standing, would have been left by the wayside a long time ago, and we would probably have less women doing, engaging in those behaviors today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about whole culture that men from every every aspect participate in? Like, what about that? Because
What
they
about it?
complain about hoes and then participate with hoes, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's hypocritical. I mean, it's definitely hypocritical. But to be, when I think of whole culture, um, I did give an example earlier of women who are, engaging in like thoughty behavior and the amount of attention that they garner and things like that. I do see them garnering a lot of attention, but I don't think that the overwhelming majority of them are locking down good men. I don't think that most of them are in relationships with good men. Um, so, but I know that they get a lot of attention, but attention is one thing, but, being in a long-term committed relationship with someone who is, giving you his resources is an entirely different thing.
You make a really great point there. You make a really
Hmm.
great point
And
there.
I think, but yeah, that is, and I had to think about it myself. But the issue, though, Danny, is young girls aren't distinguishing between the two. As an adult woman with some hindsight, and even like I said at the beginning of this conversation, that wasn't even the stance that I took. Thinking about it consciously, and then realizing, okay, it's two different things. When you think about young girls, they're not making that distinction. They're looking at it like they're garnering all the popularity, all the likes, all the fame, and they aren't thinking about the fact that yes, they're garnering that, but they're not garnering the long term commitment, the what marriage from these men, and so on and so forth.
Do you think men perpetuate whole culture and then complain about it? Because
Yeah, I
without
do.
one or the other, it's like if you don't have hoes,
Hmm.
you can't participate, and then if you participate, you want hoes. Does that
Oh,
make
I absolutely do. Because even when you think about, and I'm just about to say his name, Ramil. Ramil is one of the people who recognizes the state in which the Black community is in, and he pushes the message that Black men should, stay to themselves and just focus on building for 10 years. But in the same respect, he also talks about, lying to women, to hit and quit it, and things of that nature, which would perpetuate the very negative things in the community that he claims that Black men could change if they, refrain from engaging with these women, and so it's very hypocritical, and I see, he's not the only person that I've seen do that. You can't talk about the horrible state that the community is in, and how the Black community is so horrible that we need to exit from it, but also talk about people trying to bend as many women over their couches as possible, and lying to women to sleep with them, and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think Ramil, he's definitely not SYSBM.
No,
Um,
no, no, no. He's
okay, because I think what he's saying is you can have
to
sex,
that, but
but okay.
no, he says, so his message is that Black men should be focused on building, that they should take 10 years out from relationships and procreating in order to build, so that the Black community can be repaired. However,
Yeah.
at the same time, you're saying that, but you're also saying that, pushing a message to a lot of chicks, to a lot of chicks to sleep with them. You can't. Which, if you're telling men to do that, sex is a procreative act. You're risking the chance of fathering a child, number one. In addition, what are you going to leave in your wake besides broken women?
Um, it's kind of like the make them crazy and call them crazy.
Yeah, basically.
But okay, so if they say that it now, from what I'm gonna say for the men, because I feel like most men are gonna say, well, that was Pookie and Ray Ray who did all this shit. That was Pookie and Ray Ray. And
Ray Ray.
what do you think about that?
I mean, they probably will say something crazy like that, or they'll say, um, they'll try to defend it in one way or another. It's not just Pookie and Ray Ray though. I think we've talked about that.
Right.
I do, yeah. I mean, you can't even quantify it. Like, you cannot quantify it. Show me some, and I like. I'm not even one of those people who believe every statistic that I see, but show me a statistic that points to Pookie and Ray Ray being the fathers of all of these illegitimate children that are being born in Black communities. You cannot. So I just think that's a falsehood. It's convenient to say Pookie and Ray Ray is responsible for everything negative that happens in the community. And I mean, I just personally don't believe that. Yeah, absolutely. Are they a detriment to the community? Yes, that's not what I'm saying. But I don't think that we can solely say that they are the ones, fathering all these children. Because, like I said, we just using our own personal circles, talking about like how many women we know that, career women that we know that had children with, like, hood dudes or hood guys and stuff, and like both of our statistics were well under 50%. You know what I mean? And I know, like I said, that's just our personal experience, but I just think that it's easy to push all the blame off on Pookie and Ray Ray.
Right. So, are you ready to open up this exciting panel that I'm sure
Let's
we're gonna have?
do it. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they ain't happy about what we're saying, and we'll probably be featured on somebody's stream as a result of it. But let's do it.
Honey, you know I'm a feminist, right?
You're always getting features, so you know.
You know I am a feminist, honey, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay,
Girl, listen,
my
you
name
hotter than
is
Drake. You be getting all the features, sis.
Child, I didn't think I was this popular. Shoot. I did not think I was this popular. So
Hmm.
we got our one of our faves, Complex, up in this piece. We added
Oh.
in the general up in this piece. What's up, y'all?
Oh, hey, General. I ain't seen the General in forever. I actually enjoy when Complex comes up because I generally always learn something very, very smart guy.
When who comes up? What did you say?